So this is Chairman Clint Hickman, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Maricopa County. He'll say a few words and introduce you to Scott Jarrett.
Great. Well, first of all, thanks for everyone being here. As we all know, the world is changing at a rapid pace, and there's a lot of new information flying at all of us in both our corporate lives and definitely our public service lives. Last night, the Board of Supervisors convened a meeting to discuss what this PPE election was going to look like, and we needed to make some very tough decisions. So I think what we'll probably go into first is Mr. Scott Jarrett, who is the Director of Day of Elections for the county, and talk a little bit about this planning. I want to thank my other Board of Supervisors. This meeting was called in about 30 minutes as we were getting more information, and even more information has come in just within the last 2 minutes, actually. So I'm going to first hand the mic over to Scott Jarrett, so he can take the voter through what we're looking at. So, Mr. Jarrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to let everyone know that we've been working very diligently the last several months to implement the Board of Supervisors approved Election Day and emergency voting plan. But in the last several weeks, there have been some issues with us being able to identify enough supplies, whether those be cleaning supplies, and then we also had some polling locations fall out over the last few weeks. So last night with the board, we made the board made a decisive action to approve a plan and give me the direction to be able to reduce the number of voting locations that we would then be able to provide those voters and those voting locations with the supplies they need, those cleaning supplies, those sanitation supplies that we can then disinfect those high-touch surfaces in those polling locations. So those voters, if they wanted to vote in person, they'd be able to have that polling location be available to them, and then our poll workers would be able to make sure that all those high-touch surfaces were cleaned. So what this plan does is that we had 229 polling locations available prior to the plan, and then after the board's vote, I went and performed an analysis to make sure that all those voters had 151 vote anywhere vote centers. We're taking this from those voters had 41 voting locations before these 151. Now they have 151 vote locations that they can choose from. And then with that, we're also going to be providing those voters with the options and the ability to, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, first, I want to remind the public that the ever-changing world that we are living in is creating some stress for all of us, but we want to just make the voter assured that we are going full speed on having a great election as we are tasked to do. So I'd like to talk or have Mr. Supervisor Steve Gallardo talk a little bit about this election.
Sure. Thank you, Clint. For the record, Maricopa County Supervisor Steve Gallardo, District 5. I represent Southwest Maricopa County. I am the sole Democrat on the board. We have been working real closely with not only my office, has been working real closely with the Democratic Party, Secretary of State Hobbs, and many of the legislators and leaders within the Latino community and the Democratic Party to make sure we have a successful presidential preference election. That has been key from day one. We understand that with the new circumstances we're dealing with, it's not only Arizona, but across the country, that it's important for us to make sure that not only voters have the ability to exercise the most fundamental right they have, their right to vote, to be able to participate in this presidential preference election, but make sure it is a safe environment for not only the voters, but the hardworking employees that are going to be working on Election Day. We have taken the appropriate steps to make sure that that is the case. I know there's a lot of folks that might be a little antsy about going to the polls. Is it safe? I've received a lot of phone calls and emails in regards to that. I'm here to reassure to them that it will be safe. We have enough cleaning supplies to make sure that the polling sites are disinfected, that we are able to wipe down the machines throughout the day. We're able to have hand sanitizers at all the sites. We encourage voters, if you have not voted, if you're an early voter, that's great. If you're an early voter and have not delivered your ballot, please go to one of the vote centers, drop them off there. For those that rely on going to the polls, we encourage you to go and cast your ballot. And we expect a great election. I think people are excited to be able to participate in this election year, to be able to determine who will be the Democratic nominee for 2020. And I just encourage people to go out. We'll have clean environment there at the polling sites. We had to make some adjustments. We made those adjustments. We looked at different options, but we have made those adjustments, and we're keeping the course. We're moving forward. We are moving to vote centers, which will allow people to go at any one of the sites to be able to cast their ballot. So once again, voters, if you have not cast your ballot, if you're looking to vote on Tuesday, please go. Polls are open from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. We have plenty of staff that will be there to help. The polling sites who are going to have the cleaning products and the hand sanitizers, we will have a safe environment. So we encourage all voters to have an opportunity, go out and vote, exercise that right. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Clint Hickman, our chairman.
So we're here as a board and a unified board to make sure that the voters understand in Maricopa County that we are going to pull off a fantastic election on Tuesday with an ever-changing world. I'm going to go ahead and allow some questions if any exist for my board. If not, okay. So
Let's start over here with Barbara.
okay. Okay.
Long time, Barbara. It's been a long time. I don't see you no more. I don't miss it, by the way. And Barbara, you know as well. I mean, I have always been an advocate for vote centers. I really do. I think that is a wave of the future. But in this particular election, I think it works well. It's incredibly well. Particularly District 5, which is considered the minority majority district, where a vast majority of the voters are Hispanic or African American or Native American. The vote centers work well. It allows voters to be able to go to any one of the sites throughout the district to be able to cast their ballot. Let it be somewhere close to their home or where their place of employment. But vote centers have always proven to be an actual success. You see it in other states that have utilized vote centers. So vote centers are good. And I think particularly in my district where voters, they're working 8 to 5. They're having to work on Tuesday. Allow them to go to any one of the sites on Election Day. Even if they may live in District 5 and actually work in District 2, it allows them to vote in District 2 as well. So it allows them to go to any place, be able to cast their ballot, and be able to move on about the day. The whole idea is to make sure we have accessibility, that voters can be able to exercise that right, and make sure we have a clean environment, and I think that's what we have in front of us. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, making sure that voters have access, and by moving to vote centers, I think, we actually went from 40 to 150, almost tripling the number of vote centers throughout Maricopa County. That'll give, I believe, plenty of access for voters across Maricopa County, not just in District 5, but across Maricopa County to actually cast their ballot.
Let's have Bill Gates answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Again, what we're talking about here today is what's going to happen on Election Day. This is the plan that we're going forward with. We looked at that option of mailing out to all of the people who aren't on the permanent early voter list. We chose not to do that. So again, I think that, I think there have been some actions on that. The Attorney General has addressed that, but that's not the way that we're proceeding. We're proceeding with the plan that was just set forth here by the board. Yeah, it's very important that there not be confusion, and if those ballots are mailed out, we will cross that bridge if we get to it. Again, we chose not to do that as a board, and I hope that that's not what ends up happening, but we certainly do have the technology to address it. But again, folks should come on Election Day if they want to vote, and it's going to be safe, and there's going to be many locations for them to do that at. I spoke briefly with him about that plan, and again, he understands that the board believes that that's not the direction to go. Respect Adrian's desire to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to vote, and we think that this plan is going to give everyone the opportunity to vote.
Well, he is a publicly elected official, and that is his office, and that is what he might or might not have chosen to do. We did discuss that option last night and felt that this board needed to stay in the statutory guidelines. So that's what we have chosen to do. What Mr. Fontes decides to do, that's up to him. Remember, he's a publicly elected official, as we are as well. Well, we're going to continue to affect our plan. So we hope that no confusion arises to the voter. Our plan should not create confusion to the voter. Our plan is to make sure that we run a great day of election with our staff. Did you want to take one?
I think as it relates to the actions of the recorder today, it's best to do just what my colleague Mr. Gates suggested. Let's let the Attorney General, let's let the Secretary of State work that. So we all could admit, especially all of you in the media, that these are precarious times. The actions of the past few weeks with this virus have put everyone on their heels. I learned just moments ago that Louisiana has canceled or plans to cancel their election this upcoming Tuesday. We are not. So you just heard from Scott Jarrett, who has put immense hours, immense time into reforming Maricopa County elections. People have gone with limited sleep. People have put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours in recent weeks to ensure that. Then in recent days, we are made aware that some of these polling places are no longer available because as a ripple effect of the coronavirus. We are acting to make sure that we stave that off to the best of our ability and to, at the same time, try to access additional cleaning materials, which are scarce today, to make sure that Tuesday goes off with the smallest of glitches because of this coronavirus. And that's what you're going to see on Tuesday. You saw a small, what I believe is a small, slight reduction in voting places, polling places, that are now replaced with voting centers, which means more people from across Maricopa County can vote. So while the Attorney General and the Secretary of State work out the actions of the county recorder today, we'll let them do that. We'll let the county recorder do what he feels is right. He is duly elected, and he's our colleague. We are one family in Maricopa County, and we want to pull off a successful election come Tuesday. So I think if we can work in that spirit of cooperation as a body of government and as a media, I think we will have the best outcome for Maricopa County residents and voters. So keep in mind, some of the culling of the voting centers was twofold. One, because of some people backing out, some locations having to back voting center or that voting location, and others where, because of what's happened in and around Arizona, some cleaning supplies that we had ordered were diverted to another state. It was not because of lack of planning. Those cleaning materials were diverted to another state, therefore we never got them. So in an abundance of caution, we decided it would be better to close those facilities and then open up as voting centers with 151-fold. Yes, we do. At this time, yes, we do. We have found in the recent days, if not weeks, that the poll workers and volunteers, keep in mind many of these folks are volunteers, have been very forthcoming with their concerns about their health and have been very responsible in letting us know they cannot be there. Now, if some do not show up, we have contingency plans. We are working on those very issues. But today, as we stand here today, and that's why the chairman had called for this press conference, to make sure we can let the public know what the plans are for this upcoming election on Tuesday.
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry. Where
Voters in the affected places that would rather than how were they?
Well, we are currently pushing out messaging with Mr. Jarrett's been doing a great job. Let me remind you, this is a high stress environment that's going on for him, but we have been pushing out as much messaging as we can possibly do through the elections website. As we get a plan and a map together, we're going to do the best we can to alert voters. We are also, at this point, going to be establishing drop boxes if people want to do that with, we hope, a manned county employee. So if they arrive to a polling center, there's at least a drop box, and we can point them into the correct direction to the closest voting center or to all the voting centers. Because again, as Supervisor Gallardo mentioned, some of us live in the West Valley but drive out to the East Valley. So the possible best location is somewhere you would never consider because they're coming from their work. So
And it's no different than any other election. I mean, when you have a polling site that for whatever reason has to close, you do appropriate postings, you have notices there. If voters wish to show up at a site that has been moved, they will be informed on where they can go. I believe at many of them, we're going to have personnel there too, pointing them in the right direction. We'll continue to send out the messages, not only social medias, but the text messages and all the other capabilities we have in order to inform the voters that their site might be moved. And here are the appropriate sites that they can go to. They can go to any one of the 150, be able to cast their ballot, and be able to participate on Tuesday.
And in addition to that, our voters now can go to locations.maricopa.vote to get the most up-to-date locations on that. And I just wanted to add too, just to follow up on what the chairman said with respect to Mr. Jarrett. He's been up for the last 2 days. He's been up for 48 hours straight trying to address this unprecedented challenge, and we are so grateful to him for his expertise and the hard work that he's putting in on behalf of the people of Maricopa County.
So a few quick reminders here. Erica Flores, who's a spokesperson for the Elections Department, can answer specific questions you have about how they're communicating out. In general, I can certainly say that they have a direct text and robocall campaign that will go out to affected voters. Also, as Supervisor Gates just said, locations.maricopa.vote. That is up. It's live. It shows the 151 polling places, or vote centers in this case, that will be active on Election Day. So there'll be a lot more messaging over the weekends directly to those affected voters. And the board has supported this plan. They've supported Mr. Jarrett, and they're correct. We finished the emergency meeting last night at almost 7:30. He immediately started work on the plan. What locations could be closed, and then still consolidate so we have enough workers, enough cleaning supplies to pull off an election with as few problems as possible. So with that, I'd like to thank the members of the board for being here today. If you have any other questions about technicalities, what's going on with elections, I encourage you to talk to Erica. She's the spokesperson for the board, or for the board and the Elections Department in this case. So thank you all for being here today.